It was in previous hour ad how permitted lot of the UK's industry owners to eventually get a few several hours of peaceful sleeping. In Brussels on Thursday, the EU given the UK a 6-month expansion, therefore elimination the instant risk of a not deal Brexit. But for companies how include bin preparation for a flash output, it was no more than rather than a interim deferment. It's a bit of ambiguity how isn't useful, says Andrew Graham. His 70-year-old business, Graham and Tan Wallpaper, has been accumulation raw material for months at its plant in Blackburn. An expansion is superior rather than a no transactions, but in fact we could do in receive the departure transactions via so how industry can later schedule for which it is necessary to make. Joy Parkinson, who rest a Hyde-based business marketing nature beautiful means, is more than sanguine. The belief in environment lug says Brexit is a obstacle, yet not insuperable. We've been purchase further stockpile of the beautiful fragrances we buy in of Europe, to do certainly we were coated if down there were issues about ports and blockages, she says. We were leading how several of our partners in Europe markets might include requested to buy additional stockpile, Ms. Parkinson explains, but how script never materialized. We've not overbought, so we've been quite reasonable and quite pragmatical. We've not purchased 6 months, 12 months of further content, so we've controlled the cash money stream quite pragmatically. Nottingham flower grower and ex-disciple competitor Elizabeth McKenna has thick felt the effect of Brexit ambiguity lot more than firmly. Her industry, and her production, are portion of a well-tuned delivery circuit. We procedure and buy our flowers of Holland on the internet, she explains. Orders requirement to be affirmed by 10 o'clock so as to encounter auction house deadlines in the Netherlands. The flowers are later transportable night via railing and ferries, and any latency could indicate they come wilted or corpse. The original Brexit day of March 29, Ms. McKenna explains, was fair 2 days up her business's brisk day of the year, Mom's date. How in fact created and growth in product prices, since of the ambiguity in the exchanging bet for how 1 week that has immediately struck profits during my production. As far as hard to schedule for which is departure to occur in Brexit, we are a little production, and we refuge tea had quite data to schedule. Virtually all how florists and human beings work at my standard can do, as little freelance business community in 10 human beings, is expect and see which the by the government tells us. Ms. McKenna says little industry include just acquired 1 or 2 Brexit related letters of the likes of HMRC, we're substantially fair save cash, cut our expenses wherever we can and our wait to whether everything is to go. Some industry include already had to consume big further expenses. Sloan's hot chocolate bar is done in a workshop in Surrey, but sold out in Waitrose, Harrods and across the sea to the US, Canada, Singapore, Dubai and Ireland. It's one of little business community for that a future Brexit expansion isn't just a wait time, but comes at a considerable cost. Founding member Brian W. says the business's affliction began the day following the plebiscite in 2016, while the LB omitted dramatically versus the buck. That led to a 20% growth in the price of its major component, chocolate bar. The business chose not to undergo how on to customers, instead of consuming in its income margins. Later, in a not deal looming, Sloan's was said by one provider how the cost of their food would go up by 20% or 30%, coercion Mr. W to stock. To assist in the frank expenses of purchase up supplies such as packing, Sloan's had to save a big overdraft of a banking. But Mr. W is stoical in the person of lot more than months of ambiguity. We mainly done the judgment how we are fair departure to get on in fleeing our industry, he says.